Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to be making a triple cube pop-up card, which is this. It's a little bit hard to actually show it 3D when it's an overhead view, but hopefully you'll get the idea, and let's crack on and show you how we came across making this. So I'm going to take the paper trimmer and we're going to start with a piece of cardstock that is 8.5 by 8. So the paper is 8.5, so I just need to put it at the 8-inch mark and cut the piece off. We don't actually need the extra piece. And then the trick is we need the 8.5, so to turn it 90 degrees and score it at each 2 inches. So I'm just going to move the cutting blade safely down out of the way. So I've put the paper at 2 inches, so it goes to 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. So it's the old 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Yes. So that's the scoring done, and then we're going to cut it into pieces, so we have to turn it back the 90 degrees. You can see all the score lines horizontally, and we're going to cut the first piece off at, it's the scoring blade, cut the first piece at 2 inches, another piece at 2 inches, and then that leaves us a longer piece which is 4 inches long. So 2 and 2 and 4 makes 8. And then I'm going to score them on all, fold them on all the score lines, score them along. And 4. So we're going to get 4 boxes, basically 4 cubes. So this one, we are going to put the adhesive down the 1/2-inch piece, the full length along. I've just used my silicone pad in case I get any sticky on my work surface. So fold that down, and when you close it on the score lines, it makes a box. I'm just going to go ahead and actually give those a bit of a crisp edge. Oops. With my bone folder. So now we've got a box that is 2 inches square and 4 inches tall, and so it has a neat edge. We took the little piece inside, so it's a little bit counterintuitive to actually stick the flap on the outside of the other 2 pieces, but you will actually see why, because we're going to attach them and you won't see them anymore. So we're going to lay the edge, basically fold it in half with the little 1/2-inch piece left over, and fold it on the outside. Again with the other piece, so you fold it in half minus the little flap, and then fold that over, give it a nice crease. And then what happens is you are going to make these little 2 by 2 by 2 cubes. They're each going to sit on the box. So if you had the seam on the inside, you would see it in here, but because it's on the outside, it's going to be hidden because it's going to be butted up against the 4-inch cube, and that's what we are going to do next. So we're going to fold them down with that seam, so we know it's going to be hidden in the body. And I'm actually going to use the tear and tape, which is super sticky, although in my case, because I just like things to be neat, it's actually cut and tape. You can't tear it. That's the whole point of it. It's actually very tearable. Oh, just for you. I hope you're sitting out there in YouTube land feeling very special. But I could manage to tear it. I just like to cut things, I don't know. Just my neat and tidy. So peel the backing paper off. And then it's going to go on the bottom of the cube. So I'm going to line it up with the stickiness at the bottom. Again, I'll do it on the other side so you can see how it works. So you want this to be attached here. So if you have the glue here and you slink it up, you now know that this sticky bit is going to be at the bottom of here. So we'll press it closed, we'll put it on the bottom, butt it up against the other piece so it's on the edge of the cardstock underneath, and the two pieces are fastened together, and then you're going to get the mechanism of the card basically. So it folds flat and then it opens up and pops apart when this bit becomes the cube. So what we need to do next is go ahead and attach some decoration, some layers onto this one. What I did, this is the Soft Succulent, which came out of the 21-23 in colours. So I took the in colours pack of paper, the 6x6 21-23, and I'm actually using the papaya, pale papaya, because I just felt it was the lighter colour. And one of the other colours in that family is the evergreen, Everlasting Evergreen. So I cut these squares are 2x2, so I cut the Everlasting Evergreen 1 7/8 by 1 7/8, and then I cut the papaya 1 3/4, so everything layers on top of itself. So I will put all the sizes and the dimensions and everything in the instructions in the bottom, so you don't have to remember. But it's basically just a little 1/8 of an inch around. And I like the Everlasting Evergreen because it's a much darker colour and it just gives everything a little pop. So I went ahead and did those. I often joke that growing up in England, we had a TV show called Blue Peter, and they used to show crafts. And what they did was they always had some part of it partially made. And here's one I made earlier. So in keeping with my heritage, here's some I made earlier. So we are now just going to put the glue, the adhesive, on the back of each of these. And we are, as this is the card, let me just remind you, this is the card, how it's going to look. It's going to go on the top, on the horizontal part, and down the front. So in order for those to be the pieces that we need, if we just close it, these are the 6 squares that we need to fill. So I am just going to layer those on. This is actually a great way if you had scraps of designer series paper. You know how you've always got like a 2-inch piece or a 3 7/8 piece. You can cut these out and use them up fabulously here because it's just little extras. So that is the layers on. So now when the card comes out, it looks like this, and there is lots of pretty decorations on it. The next step is to do some stamping. I'm actually using the artistically inked stamp set, and I will be die cutting them out with the artist dies. So let me go ahead and get that going. What I did was, it's quite a strong color. I'm using the polished pink, which is one of the in colours, but it is a little bit of a strong colour. So I'm going to do some stamping off some second generation. So basically by that I mean you ink it up full strength, looks very intense, stamp it on a scrap of paper or cardstock, and then when you stamp it the second time you get a much paler refrain of the same. So stamp it on a scratch paper full strength, and then when you stamp it you get a much lighter refrain. I just think it's a little bit nicer, seeing as the other colours are a little bit pastel. You don't want to overwhelm it with something that's woo pink in your face. So the next thing is to stamp some of the other flowers that come in the set. So again, same concept, stamp it off, stamp it on the paper, full strength, stamp it off, stamp it on the paper, on the white cardstock that you're actually going to use. So we can pop that away. The next step is to cut some leaves, which is going to be in the Soft Succulent, which matches the cardstock of the card. Whoops. So we'll take the leaves and do exactly the same thing. We'll stamp them off, stamp them so they're just a little bit of a lighter refrain, because I do feel this is awfully strong for the card that I want to make with the pastel colours. It's a lovely colour, it's just not the colour that I want to use right now. So that's the concept for doing that. So we'll pop the leaves back into their box. And the last thing I wanted to do was the middle of the flowers. So we'll close that and we'll get the papaya, which coordinates with the Papaya Designer Series paper and all the other colours. So we can stamp it full strength or stamp it off, whichever one. I'm actually, when I come to do mine, I'm going to be using the full strength. So that's the concept of how you get different depths of the same colour by stamping off. So we'll close those up. What I did do was I then went ahead already and ran these through the die cut. So thank you, Blue Peter, for the idea. There is the flowers, the leaves, the middle bits, whoops, the everythings. So I'll just pop my little scrap away for now. These I will cut out and use for the subsequent card that I make. So here we go. Here are all the ingredients that we're going to need for the card. This one I already went ahead and made. So it's taking the flower and attaching the leaves on the back, literally just by putting a piece of glue, and then in order to give it a little bit of something, I am attaching the center of the flower with a dimensional. And then these two, I just decided I would make two of them just to try and give it a little bit more depth. So these I'm actually going to raise up. The one that's going on the top, I'm raising up on dimensional, so it's the whole flower rather than just the middle. So I'll quickly, whoops, help, pop those out the way. And go ahead and, oh, I don't know which way around to do it. There we go, gently offset. And because that's already a dimensional, the middle I'm just going to attach with regular adhesive. So let's start assembling. So we are going to put this flower, actually it's already got the sticky on here. It can actually stick up a little bit and out a little bit because this is only 4 inches, and of course the envelope is well, the card is 4 1/4, the envelope is 4 3/4. So I will show you how it all fits inside the envelope when it's done, just so you know I'm telling the truth. So that we're going to do. What we're going to do next is when this card opens, we want this flower to sit on the edge. So in order to do that, we need to have a little mechanism. So I'm going to just quickly punch out a 1-inch circle and fold it in half. And then give it a little crisp edge. I'm going to put some adhesive on this side and attach the fold to the edge of the top. And then we'll put a little bit more adhesive on this side of the circle, and that's where we're going to attach the flower. Let's have it so that the pieces look good. So we just got to make sure that that is attached nicely to there. It still clears everything. And then the last little step is to put a little bit of glue on the leaves because they will be popping out from behind the flower, just like that. So there we go, it looks good. So now this is how it folds into the envelope, and then you just have to be careful that when you come to open it, this flower can be 3D and these flowers pop out nicely at the front. And the last step is to add a little greeting, which is going to actually go down in here. So what we need is a stamp set back. You have to be careful if you put a greeting that's too long, it can actually sort of disappear into the shadows. So in this instance, I'm going to do the thanks. I'm going to grab back my little piece of scratch paper because, as we said, for this card, the polished pink is a little intense. I love pink. I love flamingos, so I love pink. So we'll stamp that off. And then we'll stamp it on there, and it's just a nice lighter refrain, and it matches the depth of the pink that is used for the flowers. So that's that. I will bring back in the paper trimmer and just give that a nice neat trim. Oops, that's the scoring blade, Alyson. And then what we need to do is bring back in some of the Everlasting Evergreen, and you could stick that on or measure it. I'm always a little bit hesitant in case where I stamp it doesn't fit and I have to change it. So if you just sort of hold it in place, you can see that you've got the edge. And then I will go ahead and actually attach it this time, which is the other way of doing it. Like I say, I will give you the directions. So if you line up the edge, just as a quick tip, if you line up the edge of the cardstock with the stamping on, in this instance it's white, against the edge of the paper trimmer, and you cut, the depth of the channel is just enough to give it that 1/8 of an inch round. So what we need to do now is get a little scrap of evergreen and fold it in half. And then we're just going to cut it in half. This is literally just a scrap. I don't even know what the measurements are. What are they? It's 2 inches and it looks like it was 1 inch. So it's now 2 inches by 1/2 inch. And you fold it in half, and this is what the greeting is going to go on inside the card. So we are going to put adhesive all the way down. And then it's going to go inside the card. This is actually a little bit hard to show again with an overhead camera, but what you need to do is you need to fold it. It's got glue on both sides, so fold it in half and just stick it where the fold of this is, and do the same thing on the other side. So when you look inside, you can already see that it's stuck to the cardstock in here, and then there are these two lovely sticky flaps. So we're just going to pop that on, oops, the stickiness, and then press it on both sides from behind. I'm awfully sorry that it's such a complicated, it's a complicated look because of how it goes. So now it all folds flat, and I did have an envelope, so you can see here's a regular standard Stampin' Up! Envelope. It fits nicely inside. The leaves are not too far apart, it's not too deep, so you can fit it nicely. When you open it, it sort of automatically springs open. You've got the flower in the middle, you've got the greeting hidden inside. These are just elements to put on the front. There is space on the back for you to write your greeting. So there we have it, a triple cube pop-up card. I will be posting some other samples of it on my Instagram page, which is listed below, so have a look and check them out. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching.